speaking with you. And I just, I want to start off by saying I just listened to yesterday Alone.
Oh, huh? Okay.
I had some time to, sit and actually hear it from beginning to end. And what a beautiful album.
Oh, thank you very much, man. It was fun to do because I did one way back, a solo acoustic record way back in 2000, and so all this time people have been saying, when are you going to do another one? So and there's even a French guy who's emailed me once a month for 14 years going, how's it coming? How's the new one coming? Are you doing another one? So pretty funny that resonates, that solo acoustic thing really resonates with certain people.
Well, it's so accessible, regardless of whether or not you go in for, the all-out big sound of blues rock or rock, there's something about the pieces you chose were really interesting. So one of the questions I had for you about that was, how did you come up with that selection? I mean, it's really across the board, from Pat Metheny to Peter Gabriel and to Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I mean,
yeah. Well, to be honest, they're all songs I like, and I pick the songs based on the my ability to say something new about them, for starters. That's the first thing I'm doing. And I actually really had second thoughts about including those three John Lennon, the Beatles tunes, because those have been covered so many thousands of times. And I even had second thoughts about My Generation, but Somewhere Over the Rainbow. My Generation by The Who, that would have been a good one to cover.
I was going to say, I missed that one.
Yeah, that's a bonus track, right? No, anyway, but I had real second thoughts about putting that one on there too. But then after the record came out, I got nothing but a lot of people just really relate to those tunes, and they're really, really into them. So, and my Somewhere Over the Rainbow is so completely different than anybody else's version that I thought, well, I'll put that in there too. So
it is. I mean, and I have to admire that. Take that song and the Pat Metheny Last Train Home has been covered probably by almost every guitar. I mean, if you go on YouTube, there's probably more versions of that song, people playing it, but you really did a nice job with it. I mean, so it's a real departure, and yeah, so good.
Oh, thanks, Tom. I sure appreciate that. That especially since the Over the Rainbow was one that I almost said, let's not put it on there. And same with the three Beatles tunes. But my version of Norwegian Wood in 6/8 time in 4 different keys. That's just going to be a different approach, no matter how you look at it.
It's a hard act to follow.
Right.
So now you're presently touring this album.
I am a little bit, basically I've got a 3-night tour coming up here, and I got a show next week in LA at a little theater, and then I'm going up to Seattle in June. So what I'm doing is it's just so easy to do one-offs because of the that you don't have hotels for the band, you don't have a tour bus and a tour manager and an equipment guy. It's just me, so I can jump around and do these much easier, and they're a bit lucrative way to go too. You don't have all the tour expenses that you would with taking the band out.
Yeah, so that's great.
So it's a much bigger challenge, though, I got to admit. I mean, to hold an audience captive for an hour and a half or even longer, it's a lot of work, and you end up doing at least 25 songs because there aren't other people playing solos, and so you really end up doing a lot of work. And the way I do it is I start practicing. You don't even know it right now. I'm practicing some nylon string guitar because I've got one of these shows a week from tomorrow. But what I do is I generally take 2 weeks out in front of a concert and try to play the entire set list down perfectly and keep working on it till I get it perfect. And then like tomorrow when I do it, it'll be a little shorter practice time because I'll have done it today, and then the next day and the next day. So as I get closer to it, I'm much more in tune with the acoustic guitar.
It's an interesting approach. I've heard two other people speak about that. How early on in the tour they'll really use those opportunities to like drill down tunes. They were both jazz musicians, actually. So it seems to be a way of, I guess, working while you're on the road, or making that time as productive as possible.
Yeah, there's a way I do it that I put the days of the week across the top of the page that are left until the show. So if I've got 10 days until my concert, I write Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like that across the top. Then I write the set list down the side, and then I graph it off. So each day, like on Tuesday, I'll practice every one of the songs until I get it, tolerable, like up to speed, and then I'll put a little check mark on it, and then I'll do it tomorrow and the next day. So this little graph really helps me to see what I need more work on, what I need less work on, and it's also interesting too, because I find new ways to go with these tunes, so that if anybody's heard me before, this is a whole different version of it. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah, and with Fox, you have many, many years of touring behind you, and you can't help but wonder, after all these years, does it still hold that same excitement for you when you play? I mean, you just mentioned earlier, there's, it's just you holding down the show, so you've got to keep an audience captive. What are some of the challenges that come up in a performance where, you've kind of got to keep that level of energy and that level of interest going?
Yeah, there is. It's kind of like when I've learned early on, like doing live radio, like when I've been in, say, London or Dublin, or even here in LA, and a DJ's interviewing you on the air. You just have to be at this level of concentration and in the moment, to where you cannot let up, you can't daydream, you can't think of anything else. You just have to be on it, because the minute you start getting boring, the guy's going to go, okay, yeah, next, what do we got? You're out of there. But and that's kind of the way I feel about the solo gigs, is that they got to be exciting, they got to be happening, and I got to have interesting stories to tell between the songs. And so, I think the biggest challenge is just trying to stay focused and concentrate that hard for that long,
Yeah. Have you ever had like periods where you just don't want to do it, but you become somebody else and you just go there and...
Well, there have been times when I've been completely exhausted, and I was doing a festival with John Schofield about 2 years ago, and he said to me, he goes, sometimes I play better when I'm completely exhausted, when I've just got no energy to go out there on stage, but I get out there on stage and something else takes over, and I'm, I can't second guess myself, I'm just playing off the top of my head. And Larry Carlton told me the same thing years ago. I said, what do you do when you just don't feel like it, And he goes, you know what, I let the music take over, and when the music takes over, the people take over, and people will, they will really bring you along, So I try to live by those words, let the music take over, and let it just kind of like, in other words, once you start thinking about what you just played, you're out of it. And so I try not to do that. I try not to go, if there was a mistake I made, or, I've backed myself into a corner I can't get out of, I don't try to second guess it. I just go for it, and see where I can go. And that's an interesting way to approach solo performance. You can't second guess yourself. You can't think like, oh man, what did I do? That shouldn't have been an E flat. That should have been an E natural, or a D or an F or something. You can't be thinking that way. You go, well, played an E flat. Now what? Right. You don't even think about it. So.
You just bring yourself into the moment and sort of invent it from there. It's a great, it's a gift. To be able to do that. And and now on the studio side, you've got miles of credentials here, and this was very interesting to us, because I don't know how much you know about our website, but one of our intentions was to bring profiles of successful musicians who've had unique careers, but to try to find out a little bit about how that works, how that creative process works, so that it can be an inspiration to other musicians. And one of the great achievements that I see in you is that you're one of the most sought-after studio musicians, and that is a huge compliment. I would imagine for a musician to be sought after. To have some artist who wants to have your sound. What do you think it takes to be that way?
Well, there's two mindsets. The first one being an artist, and when you're an artist, you're thinking, this is the way I want music to sound. This is the way I believe music should sound. And that's your own musical vision. But when you're a sideman or a studio musician or a guy in a band, you have to realize that is actually somebody else's musical vision. And your job is not to project your own onto it. I mean, you can sneak it in whenever possible if it's apropos, but your job is to really bring that guy's musical vision to fruition. And it might be very simple, or it might be real complex. But whatever I think about it really shouldn't enter into it. I mean, I've got taste, of course, hopefully, and I'm going to project that onto it. And you get some keyboard players that'll write, 6-note chords or 7-note chords when you only have 5 fingers, and it can't be done, and 6 strings. So you get situations where you have to edit and fix and tell them, hey, this is what a guitar player would do. I like what you wrote, but here's what a guitar player would do. You bring it into this realm, and then they're usually thrilled because that's what they had in mind. But so it becomes a little bit like that. There's two gigs. Oh, would you hold on 1 second, Tom? My son wants to borrow my car. I'll be right back. So, okay, buddy, here you go. When are you going to be back?
I'll just give you a call, probably 3:30.
Okay. Yeah.
Around then,
All right, be very careful.
Yeah.
Don't go anywhere else, too.
Yeah.
All right. See ya. Okay, love you. He's home from spring break from college, and I've never let him I got a little Porsche, and I've never let him pick it out. This is his first day ever taking out himself, because his car's up.
No pressure there, right?
No, I'm just going, oh, God, what have I done? Anyway, back to that conversation. So you got to think of yourself as two different careers. One is the well-listened craftsman, and that guy is the perfect sideman, because when somebody says to me, I remember I was doing this movie called Walking Tall. I think it starred The Rock or whatever, and they need you to sound like ZZ Top. So I go, okay, ZZ Top, that's Billy Gibbons, one of my favorites. He plays a 59 Les Paul. He plays through a Fender Champ amp. He uses kind of these pinch harmonics. He's got kind of a behind-the-beat groove. He's playing the Texas-type style shuffle, much different than the Chicago-type shuffle. Got it. And I can come there and do a perfect imitation, in my humble submission, of Billy Gibbons and nail it, And that's fun for me. I enjoy that. On the other hand, the artist side of me isn't going to make a record sounding like Billy Gibbons. It's going to make a record sounding like me. So I think to be successful, you need to be a well-listened craftsman, And when I say craftsman, it's almost like a plumber coming to your house and looking under the sink and goes, well, I'm going to need a half-inch elbow here, and in other words, and this pipe wrench and that clamp, and so I come to the session and go, I'm going to need a Les Paul and a Champ amp and a little special pedal to make that sound, So it's similar, but I always looked at the whole studio business as a big detour for me, because all I really wanted to do was play my own music and be my own artist,
Interesting.
So,
another studio musician that we had a conversation with not too long ago. I'm sure you probably worked with him at some point. It was Phil Kenzie, sax player.
I know who he is. Yeah,
his work is like all over the place, But I guess his take on the studio. Well, the studio affords him the ability to go out and play, but his own stuff. Like people, they need his sound. They need him. They need him to, to write the part. So I guess it's a little bit of a different situation where you're not just being called in to, be the technician. So.
Well, there's a million gigs that I've done where they've wanted a warm body on guitar,
Yeah.
as opposed to me. And those have been like movie dates when you're playing with a 105-piece orchestra and they need a guy to play nylon string guitar and mandolin and this and that, you know. So there's that kind of gig. And then there's the other kind of gig, which I did last week, which was with a 6-piece band, and it was for a record project, and they really wanted me to be me and put my sound and my solo on it. So it's about maybe 50-50, you know. You get calls for it's more the creative stuff, the record dates and things like that, where they really want you to do your thing, right, as opposed to the movie and TV dates and even jingles where they want somebody to play a part. So different styles of sessions there.
What are some of your favorite venues?
Oh man, I would have to say, you know, I've done a lot of amazing venues with Supertramp that are, you know, beyond the reach of my band because they're 20,000 seaters and stuff. Mm-hmm. But we play maybe 2 or 3 times in my career with them, which is spanning 30 years. I've played a Roman amphitheater in Nîmes, France. Oh. That's spelled Nimes. Gorgeous. And two out of 3 times at least, it's been a full moon, and as we're playing, the moon has risen between those Roman arches, you know, and you realize, man, this has been a gig for over 2,000 years. It's unbelievable.
It's true.
So that kind of thing. And then I played the Verona Amphitheater, a Roman amphitheater in Verona, which is pretty amazing. And my own band has played all over Europe and all over the States. There's a few venues where I've got a real big following, and those tend to be the ones I really enjoy the most. But we played in Lithuania last year, and all 3 shows were sold out, and they were all like 500 seaters, you know. And it's only my second time ever playing there. That was pretty fun. And we played in Prague, in the Czech Republic, in a beautiful venue there, like an old theater. And that was a wonderful show. So you just never know. There's some we've hit for many years, and we know they're going to be great. And then there's some brand new ones you do, and you can't believe what a great reception you've had after never having been there before.
Yeah. A lot of artists are going the way of house concerts. Have you explored this? You know, where you take your set and your guitar and, you know, go play for a private audience?
I mean, I haven't done it yet. I've always felt it was beneath me, but you know, that it's because you can't get a gig in a real venue. But but I got to say, you know, I'm open to it sometime if it's the right situation, and there's, you know, because sometimes you play in a venue and it would have been much better to be in a house where there's not waitresses walking around and margarita machines blending up ice and stuff. So
if you like look back, you know, over your experiences, what were some of the most bizarre venues you've played, or circumstances, you know, bizarre circumstances while you were playing?
Well, you know, I remember playing a place in East Germany only about 6 years after the wall came down, and nobody there spoke any English, and I think they were all thinking this was the Saturday night dance, because we start playing my own music from my band, and they're scratching their heads and wondering what to do, and, you know, I got a funny feeling that this was just, something wasn't right. But what was really bad about that show was that we had all had something bad for dinner, and we didn't know what it was. So as the drummer was playing a solo, I ran off stage and hurled, you know, wipe my mouth off, come back and keep playing. Then the bass player had to, right in the middle of another song, you know, he knows he's going to throw up. He runs backstage. And then the third guy was the drummer. He goes, "Can you play a solo piece? I got to throw up," you know. So by one in that show, we all lost our cookies. That was pretty weird. I remember another time playing in Detroit and with Supertramp, and it was like Joe Frazier Hall or Cobo Arena or one of those big giant places. And this was in the 80s, and they had this sort of ego ramp that was grating, you know. It was a grate that walked out, like a gangplank out in front of the stage. And I was out there playing a solo, you know, like 30 feet out in front of the band. I mean, it's a big, long thing. And all of a sudden, you know, my eyes are closed. I'm looking up, and I'm not looking at the guitar neck or anything, and all of a sudden all the strings just went completely dead, and I got no sound out of it. I looked down to see that somebody had taken off their T-shirt, which was soaking wet, and thrown it at my guitar, and it wrapped around the strings, it wrapped around the neck. So that was pretty bizarre. So anyway,
going back, I'm sure you have so many stories. But let me ask you this: early on, when you were, first starting out, and got your guitars and learned how to play, and you were going, did you get a lot of encouragement along the way? Was this the way you always knew you were going to go, music, or were you discouraged from it at some point in your life? Where given advice, more practical advice, be a dentist, be a doctor, type of thing?
That's really a great question, because I'm sure that really applies to a lot of the people that follow your website and stuff. Thankfully, my parents were very encouraging. When I was really young, like 11 and 12, they'd say, hey, put that thing down and go out and play some basketball, and I'd be out playing basketball with the window open so I could hear if Turn, Turn, Turn by the Byrds came on, and I could race into the house and try to figure out the last minute and a half of it by just, playing along with it. But then, the best advice I ever got was from my dad, who just said, whatever you do, make sure it makes you happy. And, they gave me a little bit of that. You got to have something to fall back on if this music thing doesn't work out. They gave me a little bit of that, but they never discouraged it. And, they're always supportive and come to shows and, little gigs I had back then in my teenage years. And so I'm one of the lucky ones whose parents were behind me all the way.
That's great. And that's so important. Just someone there to say, you can pursue your dreams. It's okay. If it makes you happy, it's going to work out for you. And that's beautiful advice.
Yeah, I'm so happy about that, and I that's the way I'm raising my son. He's 19, and I'm saying whatever you do, just make sure it's what you want to get up in the morning and go do every day.
Is he a musician also?
No, he's into baseball, and he likes baseball, and he likes biology. He might even be a sports doctor or something like that. He's still trying to figure it out, but it's so I didn't push him down the music path. And every once in a while, he's kind of going, "Dang, I should have done that. I should have learned to play." Because I said, "Yeah, man, we have 70 guitars here at the house. You could pick one." So anyway, but no pressure. So
yeah, exactly. Now, what would you say is like the rarest guitar that you have, or what's the prize, the gem in the collection?
I have 3 old Stratocasters that are really wonderful. Each one has a personality of its own. I've got a 61, a 65, and a 58, 1958. And those 3 are probably my most played favorite ones. But I also have a 1954 Les Paul that's, 61 years old now, and it's just a secret weapon. When I play that thing, you can't believe what it sounds like. And 2 nights ago, my band played a big show here in Los Angeles area, and I just decided to pull out a 1959 Gretsch 6120, which is just the old Chet Atkins style orange guitar with a Bigsby tailpiece, and I pulled it out, never having played it live. I got it because some producer said to me years ago, you should have a Gretsch. Those things are really interesting, and the way they record, and it'd be great to use it on tracks. And so I bought one, but I've never played it live just because it's a hollow body guitar. And anyway, it turns out it's just amazing when you turn it up loud and play it through a big amp situation, so that was really fun. And then I have a lot of nice old acoustics too, old Martins and Gibsons, and so I'm not hurting for great sounding instruments, that's for sure. I'm lucky.
Awesome.
Because I bought them all before they became vintage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have a home studio as well? Do you record a lot of your music in house, or do you still go to the studios and like to do it the old fashioned way?
I still like to do it the old-fashioned way because no matter what, your home studio is never going to sound as good as Sunset Sound or Capitol Studio A or Village Recorder, some of the real temples of tone that you got here in L.A. They've got the mic collections that are so wonderful and so deep, and, you just can't compete with that. Having said that, I did almost all of alone here at the house because all I needed was 2 good microphones and Pro Tools. But I hired an engineer. I just don't want to start that learning curve. I'd much rather spend my hours playing than pushing than working on a computer and stuff like that. So
it definitely hampers the creative process. I mean, even though, I see the benefit, of the home studio, and certainly it makes recording accessible to musicians who otherwise might never have been able to see the inside of a studio and work. But there's a huge learning curve, and you can't be a technician, a studio technician and the artist at the same time. Even though many people do, it clearly takes away from the process of being creative. Yeah,
and I look at it like this. I've spent 50 years trying to get a good sound out of the guitar. I'm looking for somebody who's put in that kind of time, that knows how to put a microphone in front of it and get it to tape, as we say. He's got that background, and there's some guys, that are they'll do such a better job engineering than I would. So,
Yeah, well said. So what's next for you, Carl?
Let's see. There's an interesting tour coming up. I got some solo shows coming up and a couple more band shows here in L.A. But then my band is going to go to Europe and do a festival tour. We've got festivals in Italy, Germany, Austria, and Hungary, which is going to be interesting. But it's just a short one, like just 10 days long. And then after that, there's a few things around in the States in late July and August. Then in September, I'm doing a West Coast tour with my band. And then in October, I'm going to hit the road with Supertramp for a European tour that's going to be about 5 or 6 weeks. So just a short tour. We're playing just 29 arena shows. So, I've got a really nice musical year coming up, going on, I should say.
It sounds great. It sounds packed, and sounds like a lot of fun. Supertramp, it's just amazing to me how the band just keeps, a fresh following, and it just keeps up with the time, it really perseveres.
Yeah, the band is, basically not putting out any more records, but it's a great sounding band, and the leader is Rick Davies, and he's one of my musical mentors. I've learned so much from being in his band for 30 years, and he's just got a musical vision that is deep and wide, and I love being a part of it. It's always great to get together with those guys. We're all old friends now and enjoy each other's company, so it'll be fun. So.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, and it's great fun to just play the first 2 chords of Give a Little Bit and watch 20,000 people stand up. That's pretty neat.
It doesn't never gets tired, right? That's just
exactly. So,
anyway. One thing I read, which piqued my interest a little. Are you still writing monthly articles for the Italian
Guitar Player?
And the Italian paper as well, Chitarre, I believe it is, or
that I'm not really doing. Although they just got me to do one, like they're getting me for 1 or 2 a year. But Guitar Player magazine here in the States, I write one every month.
Right. So I guess is the Italian one, is that like the Italian equivalent of Guitar Player?
The Chitarre, it's called, or Chitarre, or whatever. I did about 2 years for those guys, and I did a year for the German Guitar and Bass, and then I did about 6 months of stuff for Guitarist, which is a big magazine Guitar Techniques, a big magazine over in England. I get out there and do a little bit of writing, and what's so nice about it is they just want you to write something that is a teaching moment for their readership. So it can be about a recording session or a live show or about some gear or about a technique that I've discovered or use, or, it could be about anything, which is really nice because I just kind of look back on the month and go, what happened to me this month that might be interesting? And if I can't think of anything, I can talk about something that happened 20 years ago, which is cool.
That's great. So you enjoy that? You enjoy writing?
Yeah. It's a nice thing to do. So, anyway.
No, Carl, it's it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Again, as I said, we're big fans. I know our readers will definitely enjoy hearing your words.
Great.
Is there anything that we can put on the website for you? Anything you'd like to make a special mention of?
Well, it'd be nice if you could put a link to my website so they can, add to cart, as we say.
Yeah,
I'm lucky because my generation seems to, or my audience, my what do they call it? They seem to still buy CDs, which is really nice. And I know there's a whole generation of probably people that just aren't buying CDs or just downloading, which I get a lot of too. But CD is still really the best way to hear music. It's still the best sound.
I mean, do you find that a lot of artists, that we speak to, in the general consensus, I guess, is that, the money nowadays in music is really has to be made performing, because there's just so much, pirating of music, and it's just all, it's very difficult to make money actually selling albums anymore. Do you find?
Yeah, I find my demographic, that's the word I was looking for, is still buying albums, which is great. And I went to South by Southwest last year, and sat in on some. I was a panelist, but I sat in on some other panels, and I heard over and over again that the CD is not going anywhere. People talk about the death of the CD coming soon, but they were saying no, that's not the case. It's actually strong. The CD will be around for at least another 30 years. So that's pretty amazing.
I hope so. It's the kind of thing, I'm from the album generation,
Yeah,
so,
me too.
Right, you appreciated it. You wanted the artwork. You wanted the experience of holding a product. And I've downloaded my share of albums, but, it's kind of, it's not so exciting when you download something, It's sort of like, oh, okay, now there it is on my iPod or on my computer.
Yeah. It's sort of like disposable at that point, like disposable music, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if I really want to hear something, really want to check out something, I buy it. And also, I feel good about it because I'm really helping to support that artist, too.
True.
So it's like you're voting for that guy to be able to do another record, and I think that's a strong thing to do, a strong statement to make. So
that's awesome. Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah. All right.
All right, Tom. Well, thank you so much. Good talking to you.
I've enjoyed this so much, and best of luck to you. And
yeah. All right. Well, we'll stay in touch. Thank you.
All right, Carl. You have a great one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.